They grabbed at Jeff, and his response was to swing his knife at each that came near him. Jeff managed to slice what seemed like an arm, and in almost an instant, the limb quickly grew back in its place. What had just happened astonished Jeff. He felt almost as if the man was a tall tree and his tendrils simply branches. Jeff fled from the forest, knowing that there was no way that he'd be able to fight whatever adversity truly was in what seemed to be his home territory. Jeff rushed from his attacker and found himself at the same place where he had entered. To the right of him lay the cemetery. Open space. As he ran past the trees, he noticed one that lay away from the others. The same tree from before. He ran to it out of instinct and read the note that had been from a distance before. Do not enter these woods at night. A tall man has been spotted in the area. Some call him Slender Man. Beware and enter at your own risk. Whatever the being that had stalked him in the woods before was referred to as Slender Man. The name fit perfectly. With the description of the tall, white figure, Jeff hurried towards the graveyard, where he waited for his foe, wielding his sharp, bloody knife. Jeff's wish had been granted. As the Slender Man approached from the woods, it seemed as if it was hesitant to leave its home court. Despite its hesitance, it left the area anyway and quickly rushed towards Jeff. The psychopath's instinct started to come back, and he jumped towards the tall man. Jeff was quickly grabbed by his enemy and thrown against the nearby tree. Jeff proceeded to swing again at the tendrils that had grabbed him. He was able to slash at one of the Slender Man's main arms. Blood oozed from the deep cut. The white figure showed no emotion and began snatching at Jeff once again. As he continued to smash Jeff against the tree in slabs of rock, Jeff's knife slipped from his grip and fell to the ground. Jeff collided with the ground. Jeff's knife slid into his own stomach in a matter of seconds. Blood poured from the wound, and soon the ground was covered in a red liquid. He stood up with a jolt. Is that the best you've got, Sunday? I've taken worse beatings from my father's belt than your weak twig arms. Slender Man remained silent, but continued fighting. The man reached for a piece of granite from the tombstone, but before he could take a hold of it, Jeff jerked the knife from his gut and slung it directly at Slender Man. Jeff's accuracy was precise, as it sliced off one of the man's limbs. Slender Man's left arm was completely gone. As it fell to the ground with a thud, it was quickly met by a thick blood that barraged from his shoulders. It was completely drenched in blood. Slender Man briskly disappeared into the darkness, but rematerialized behind Jeff. In his right hand, he held a broken piece of granite that he proceeded to slam into the side of Jeff's head. Jeff fell to the ground once again, almost knocked unconscious. He was not left there for very long before he was seized by his assailant and thrown against a grave. The stone exploded on impact with Jeff. Standing up once again, Jeff's gaze focused on the name on the grave. His black eyes widened. The words written across the grave slab were recognized in an instant. It read out his brother's name, Lou. Something was coursing through Jeff. Rage filled him within an instant, and he lashed out at Slender Man at extreme speeds. Jeff's knife was slashing through his suit, as well as his pale skin. Slender Man began teleporting towards the forest. Come on, bitch! I'm not finished with you yet! Jeff hollered. I want to help you get to sleep. You look awfully tired. Whatever was flowing through Jeff caused his insanity to go into overdrive. He had become delusional. He ran at Slender Man and back into the forest. He rushed through the woods, not observing his environment whatsoever. Jeff was deep in the forest, still pursuing the man. Slender Man continued to warp around the forest. Jeff's lack of caution caused him to trip on a branch lying in his way. As he crashed into the ground, shards of glass pierced him, and the contents of his pockets were thrown out. His items scattered the ground. As Jeff looked up, with a mangled, bloodied face, the scent of alcohol graced him. Jeff knew that he had been here before. He had fallen on this tree and dropped his bottle. Jeff desperately searched the ground for his knife. He felt his hand grab hold of something warm. What he had hoped was his blade. Jeff had grabbed his lighter. He quickly scraped at it, hoping that a small flame would provide a source of light. His bloody hands covered the plastic in a red liquid. After many desperate attempts, a small orange flame was produced. Jeff threw the lighter out in front of him as he attempted to find his knife that lay close to him. Before he could make another movement, Slenderman appeared before him. The smooth, white face that he had seen before was now covered in slashes and dark blood. Even though he looked hurt, Slenderman remained strong. Jeff's grip on the lighter became loose. His blood had caused friction between it and his hand. The small blaze dropped towards the ground. An intense flame scorched as the lighter hit the broken bottle of whiskey. Both adversaries fled away from the flame. Before either of them could put distance between themselves and the fire, it was ignited by the alcohol that soiled the ground. In a matter of seconds, the forest was burning from the ground up. Jeff looked for safety, yet none was to be found in the flames. Slenderman thought nothing of this and continued to swing at Jeff. Jeff fought back, ignoring the orange and red covering his environment. The tall monster grabbed at Jeff. Jeff grabbed his knife and jumped, to no avail. Jeff was pulled by the Slenderman, and now stuck in his grip. Slenderman began to shake Jeff around, and as he did, Jeff bit him. A loud crack of bone could be heard. The pain surged through Slenderman out of shock. He threw Jeff against a tree. As Jeff flew towards the tree, a sharp pain hit Jeff straight in the back. It continued until he saw a large branch sliding through his torso. As he hit the base of the tree, Jeff had been viciously impaled by a long branch. Blood gushed from his mouth in open wounds as he screamed out of pain. Slenderman then fled. He warped to an area of safety, where the forest had not been burned as of yet. He watched Jeff as he attempted to escape. At this point, Slenderman knew that escape was impossible. The white monster could hear Jeff screaming, even from a long distance away. He continued to warp away from his territory and left Jeff to burn in the flames. The blaze came brighter and surrounded Jeff. Struggling to avoid the intense heat, he violently slid his body from the tree. Fire engulfed him. Everything swirled around him. He became wrapped up in the flames. There was no hope for him. He had lost his mind long ago. Yet this was something different. He had reached his limit. His state of mind burned, just like the forest. A young girl by the name of Sarah Burgess had been reported missing. She was last seen at Drop-In Bar and Grill at around 9 o'clock p.m. If you have any idea about the whereabouts of Miss Sarah Burgess, please call the station number 404-835-HELP. In other news, major forest fire has broken out in the local area. The cause has not been discovered. Investigators are studying the remnants of the forest. The fire has been extinguished. This will hurt much of the animal life found in the once heavily forested area. We'll bring more on this story as it continues. Mark turned off the television and slumped into his couch cushion. Hey, honey, you want to go take a look at the forest? Well, what's left of it. They've put out the fire and burned the damn thing to the ground. There's also a girl missing. Maybe we'll see her while we're out there. Can we do it at some other time? I'm kind of busy right now, Mark, and if the police can't find that girl, there's no way in hell that we can, Julia protested. Mark argued, Come on, it won't hurt nothing. It won't be more than a 5-minute walk. All right, I guess, but 5 minutes only. The man put on his shoes and left his house with his wife. As they strolled towards the burnt-out forest, they could see something moving in the opposite direction. It looked somewhat human. As they moved closer to it, they noticed what looked like a severe burn to its face. The creature's eyelids were completely gone. It carried an unnatural smile spread across its face. It was completely white with a hint of gray where it once looked like that he had been burned. Its neck, its long black hair was singed. They came closer to it. Mike shouted, Hey, buddy, do you need some help? Mark, stop. We don't even know who he is. He could be that fucking killer for all we know. The man moved swiftly towards the couple. As he approached them, he drew a thick blade covered in red liquid. I don't. but I can tell as you do. Need a little help to go to sleep? Jeff slashed the knife across the man's neck, and he fell to the ground. His wife began to scream loudly. She was unable to continue as she was next. She was stabbed directly in the heart with the knife.